Hello kids, welcome to today's amazing session. This is Sweta Roy, your English master teacher at Vedantu, and today we are going to have a discussion on a very beautiful and very powerful story with a great message. And the name of the story is Two Stories About Flying. So we have two stories. The title is Two Stories About Flying, and we have two stories. So we will be dealing with the first story, that is his first flight. And this is from your NCERT Class 10 book. I hope you will enjoy today's lesson. Along with that, you will also get back a powerful message and carry that along with you forever. So let us begin with today's session. I would again like to remind you about the Visa 2020. So if you haven't yet registered, this is the right time, guys. Go and register yourselves and win assured scholarships. And of course, the Vedantu Pro subscription. Visit the link. The link is available in the description box, and use the teacher code SWRPRO to avail the discount, and your discount price is 2699. So what are you waiting for, guys? Follow these steps. The first step is select grade. The second one is select target. Then get subscription. And the last step is you just need to choose your plan and use the code SWRPRO to avail this wonderful and amazing discount. You have live interactive classes by India's best master teacher, personalized attention in the class, full recordings of the class along with notes, assignments, tests, and many more. And of course, your curriculum is completely in sync with your school curriculum. You also have micro courses, crash courses, test series, and the best part is that you have the freedom to plan your own curriculum and own study. And you have assignment, you have learning material. Apart from that, you also have regular performance reports. So everything is just for you guys. You just need to subscribe following the 4 simple steps. And we are going to deal with the very first story, which is his first flight, which is by Liam O'Flaherty, who's an Irish novelist, and he's also one of the foremost social writers in the first part of the 20th century. So he is a modern writer and he is an Irish novelist basically. And this is a wonderful story written by this wonderful writer, Liam O'Flaherty. Now, before moving ahead with this session, I would again remind you that please stay tuned to this session, because we are going to discuss few questions. I'm going to ask you few questions, which is there in the entire presentation. So yes, you need to be very alert. You need to listen to the story very carefully, and I'm going to simplify all your doubts. And yes, I'm also going to talk about the message that is being carried in the story. So please stay tuned, and please do comment in the comment section the answers as you keep commenting. And today I'm going to, as promised, I'm going to read out certain answers that has been already posted by you regarding the previous chapter. Yes, that is Thief's story. So yes, his first flight, and let us begin. We have divided this section into the story into first session and second session, in which we are going to discuss about the first story. The first session discusses the story and the questions from the story, and the second session is going to be doubts and menti related to this very story. So in order to clear all your doubts, in order to crack the menti, you need to adhere to the session today throughout the end, till the end, okay, throughout the session till the end. So let us begin. Yes, before beginning, I am going to talk about the answers that you have meticulously written. So yes, I'm not going to let your efforts go waste. So some of the answers, so I talked about, I asked you whether you have met any character like Hari. Do you think he's a fictional character, or do you think that such characters do exist in reality? And the second question was about the importance of education. So people have answered, and the answers which I really liked, all of the answers are amazing, but I cannot read all of them because the time won't permit. So yes, I would read few selected answers definitely. So yes, Neha Srivastav, she has written, people like Hari Singh are found only in fiction. I don't think that they are present in this real world. Okay, fine. And education is a path that opens the doors for morality, and also education is used by brain to nourish human resources. Amazing. The education answer is just amazing. Superb, Neha. Very well done. And uh, Get Styled with Sudiksha, she has written, no, I haven't met anyone like Hari, but the existence of such people is certain. I like it, really. A 15-year-old boy can be forced by circumstances to become a thief. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Abhishek Sharma, he has written, education is not about getting marks or degree, but the real meaning of education is to learn the values of life. This is what I keep telling you in every session. Get the real meaning of education. Don't just run after marks, don't just run after degree. That you will get definitely. But the important part to survive in this world is about learning the values of life. Very well done, Abhishek. Appreciate it. So yes, great. So please keep posting your answers, and I'm going to read out your answers in the next session like I did. Okay, guys? So I will begin this session with a wonderful quote. Acha, first of all, happy Rath Yatra to everyone. Hope you have wonderful Rath Yatra with your family, and keep eating jalebis, okay, and enjoy your day today. So, self-reliance. We will talk about self-reliance because I think the message is quite relatable. So first I will begin with a quote on self-reliance, and then I will relate it to you as and when we proceed with the story, okay? So the quote says, do not handicap your children by making their lives easy. So parents, what do they do? Sometimes we have just talked about Mrs. Pumphrey, right? We have talked about Tricky. We have talked about that story. What was that? Triumph of Surgery, in which we have seen already that how parents, they over pamper their children, and they, kind of destroy or spoil them as a result. So that was quite ironical because Mrs. Pumphrey wanted to actually take care of her dog, but that resulted in a disaster. Her over pampering resulted in disastrous results. So we talked about the fine line between love and over pampering. Similarly here also, which is here, it's about parentage and it's about self-reliance. So when the children are actually too much pampered, when the parents make them they give them everything, they do not try to make their children take the first step or take the effort to do their things on their own. They do not, give them the responsibility to shoulder. Then what happens is they lack the confidence, they lack the self-reliance. Now, why are we talking about self-reliance over here? Why are we talking about being handicapped without self-reliance? So when parents, they try to make the children's life easy, every parent, right, that is very natural, but they should, while making their children's life easy, they should also take care of this point that sometimes they should leave their children, they should let their children do things on their own. So for example, when you started to, very simple example from your daily life I'll take to make you very clear with the concept. For example, when you actually learn to tie your shoelace. So please do comment in the chat box. When you first, started going to school, you needed to, wear your shoes. So did your mother make you wear your shoes on your own, and did she teach you to tie the shoelace, and then she appreciated the efforts of yours when you actually started to, when you actually learned to tie your shoelace on your own? Or did she say, no, you can't do that, let me do it for you? Which one did she do? And what do you think, whether she has done, whatever she has done was right, or do you think that she could have done something else? Please do comment right now in the chat box. I'm going to see what you have written. So this was a very simple example, and just, I'm going to elaborate on this very concept. This is a very simple example on self-reliance actually, right? And now we will move ahead with the story of a seagull family, a young seagull family. Okay, sorry, a seagull family which had a young seagull, their parents, and his parents and his siblings. Okay, now all of these, his brother, his sister, they all were experts in flying apart from this young seagull. Now this young seagull was very afraid to fly. He thought that my wings will never support me. So whenever he attempted to fly, he saw, he actually was living in that, you know, in that he actually went to the point of the ledge and then tried to, fly, but he could not muster the courage to fly when he saw the, deep sea below. He thought that I'm going to drown, because as soon as I jump, as soon as I take the plunge to fly, I will not be able to, my wings will not be able to support me, and I will definitely go down and deep into the sea. So this was his, fear, and that is what hindered him, prevented him from learning the art of flight. So as you all know that the birds, they are born with their natural capacity to fly. They are born with their wings, but yes, they do have to learn to fly, right? They are born with the wings, but how to use the wings in order to make the first successful flight, that they have to learn. They are not born with that, it's, yes, it's natural. The wings are natural, but the flight, the first step they have to take, just as compared, try to compare it with a human baby. We are all born with our legs, right? But the usage of the legs, that we have to learn. So when a baby first starts crawling, when a baby first starts, standing up, he needs the support. But if he is, afraid to take his first step when he starts to learn walking, he will never learn to walk, right? So that is exactly what happened with the young seagull. He was very afraid to take his first flight. Okay. Now what happened? He was very afraid to fly, and the sea terrified the young seagull. Whenever he went near the ledge and attempted to take the plunge, he got extremely terrified by seeing the sea below. And what happened was, for the first time, his parents, they started to coax him in different possible ways. Initially, what did they do? They tried to, threaten him that if you do not fly, then we are not going to give you any food, because he always depended on his parents for food. Whatever their parents brought for him, he always depended on that food, because he did not know how to fly, so he did not know how to bring his own food. Therefore, he depended on his parents. Now, the parents, they tried to threaten him. They tried to, scold him, rebuke. First, initially, they rebuked him, and then they also threatened him that if you do not fly, then you will die of hunger. But still, despite all these efforts taken by his parents, he refused to take the first step because he was very afraid. So his fear overpowered him, and he refused to take the first step, the initial flight. Now what happened? Their parents thought of a plan. They thought that we should leave him completely alone. So therefore, he was left completely alone for 24 hours without food. He felt the heat because he did not know how to swim, and at the same time, what he was seeing around was all his brothers and sisters, after having hearty breakfast, they were enjoying their flight, they were enjoying their swim, and he was almost like dying of starvation. Right. Now, your question, which I want you to comment on, is number one, why do you think the young seagull was afraid to fly? And number two, which is the very important question, most important question, is why were his parents constantly forcing or coaxing him to fly? Why do you think his parents were coaxing him to fly? Okay, so I want the answers right away in the comment section. Okay, then what happened one day when he was completely left alone? He was not given any food. What he initially thought that let me play a trick. Okay, so he acted. Now, what was his acting like? He pretended to fall asleep because he wanted to see whether his parents and his brothers and sister was actually noticing him. He thought that if someone would notice him, they would definitely give me some food, because he was so long completely dependent on his family for food, right? So he pretended to fall asleep. But what he saw was nobody actually took notice of him. His brothers and sisters were enjoying their swimming, enjoying their food. His father was preening. Now, what is preening? Cleaning up his feathers. So no one actually took notice of him. That made him really very upset. He was almost on the verge of, he was very hungry. So now what his mother did was, he saw his mother standing on a rock and she had a fish on her feet. This sight of the food completely made him mad. Now, why did he got mad at the sight of the food? Because he was craving for food. He had not eaten anything. He was feeling the heat. He did not know how to swim. He did not know how to fly. He was completely devastated, right? And at that point, so suppose you are very starved, you are almost starving, and someone is sitting and eating beside you but not offering the food. Just imagine you are on a fast for suppose 24 hours. How do you feel? Right? So he was feeling very helpless. Okay. So what happened was, at that time he saw his mother. Now, what did his mother do? Initially, he started begging for the food, right? Because he saw that her mother was carrying a fish. So what was his expectation? Naturally, a son's expectation from the mother. If a mother is carrying the food, obviously the son would expect that mother would give me, she would feed me, right? But what did the mother do? She did not take care. So she flew very close to him, okay? First of all, question. Why did the young seagull pretend to sleep? Okay, and the second is, what did he observe while sleeping? So let's see how attentive were you. And yes, so we were talking about the mother seagull. Now his mother had picked up a piece of fish, and she was flying across to him. So she came very close to the young seagull, okay, with the fish in her mouth. Now think of the situation of the young seagull who was actually hungry since the last 24 hours. He leaned out, okay, he moved out, she halted, she stopped, she did not come very close. She came close, but she did not give him the food, right? And because he was completely taken over by by his hunger, so now he dived at the fish. Okay, now what happened when he dived? With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into the space, right? So when he did not know how to fly, he never had used his wings, so this was his first step. So this actually shows the crisis position in everyone's life. When we have to take our first very important step, but the step is not an easy step. So that was not an easy flight. His first flight was not very easy. It was very difficult. Similarly, in the lives of individuals, the very first step, suppose your very first job, your very first interview, your very first examination, your board examination, the first paper, all this is, makes you nervous, makes you, it's like a do or a die kind of a situation, right? For him, it was a do or a die kind of a situation. In our life, we also have such do or die kind of a situation. And we really need to take that first step despite all the risks. So if we are overpowered by our fear and we give in our fear, then what will happen? We will never learn something new. Think about your first experience of learning how to ride a bike, or maybe how to learn cycling. Like when I was reading the story, I could very well relate to my learning of, bicycle, my learning of riding a scooty, right? My learning of driving a car. So I could really relate to all this. Car was not that difficult, but yes, cycling and scooty was too difficult for me because that required balance. And yes, it was only, I am really thankful to my mother. Because of my mother only I could learn how to cycle and how to ride a scooty. Otherwise I had completely given up. Okay, so that is the very first step that we need to take, right? So please do share your stories right now about the very first step that you had to take and what happened after you actually, you know, removed your fear, overcame your fear and took that first step, and what happened after taking the first step. What was your experience like? What was your feeling like? Please do comment in the comment section. Please do comment in the chat box right away. So next, what happened? The next moment he felt his wings spread outwards. So as soon as he started to fall down, with a deep cry, he started to fall down. And when he was starting to fall down, what happens? That was a very natural impulse. When you touch something, when you touch a very hot substance, what is your natural stimulus response? You quickly remove your finger, right? Similarly, when he started to fall down, his natural stimulus responded, and so he started to use his wings, although he did not know how to do that, but that was very natural because he was a bird, right? So he started to use his wings. Initially he spread his wings outwards. Now the question is, how did the young seagull fall off the ledge, and does his mother help him? Very, very, very important. Please ignore this ed. यहाँ पे थोड़ा mistake हो गया है. Does his mother help him? Okay. Okay. So he was not falling headlong now. He was no longer afraid. So as he learned gradually how to use his wings. So initially he spread his wings outwards, and then when he started using his wings, he saw that he was no more falling down, right? And when he saw that he was no longer falling down, his fear was completely removed. So please equate this when you actually first learn to, ride your bicycle. So when you could actually, when your parent was, or you, the way I learned was using the balancing wheel, and then I removed the balancing wheel. That is how I learned. But many of you have, used different kind of techniques to learn cycling. Maybe somebody was holding you from behind, or you learned without the balancing wheel. So just equate the story of the young seagull's flight with the learning of your bicycle, and you would really feel the same thing. Right, so he was no longer afraid. So when you see that, oh, I am able to cycle without balance, without any support, right? So similarly, he also realized that now I can fly. So think of that joy, okay? Think of the joy of a child when he learns to walk, okay? So then he saw his family also flying over him. He saw his family landing on the green flooring on the ocean. They were beckoning him. So they started celebrating his first flight, because that is what their family want. Now, why did their family actually want him to fly on his own? Because they wanted him to be self-reliant. They wanted him to have the courage so that he can be self-dependent. He is no longer dependent on his family for food, because the family knew that we are not going to stay with the children forever. So every parent must also understand in the same ways. This is a message for every parent, that we need to understand that the children, the parents cannot live with the children forever. So that becomes essential for the parents to actually help the children learn the skills and learn their day-to-day life, learn to live their day-to-day life on their own without the support of their parents. So why do we earn our own living? When we grow up, we try to find out a job on our own. Why? Why are we not dependent anymore on our family? And why does our family support that? Because they know that one day I am going to leave the child forever, and what is going to happen to the child then? So that is why it is very important for the parents to make their child self-reliant, because that would give him the confidence to face the world. Just like the young seagull, now after having acquired the skill of flying, he is very confident, he is self-reliant, and he can now face the world. He can now enjoy his flight. He can now also bring his own food and enjoy flying with his entire family. And how did the young seagull overcome his fear and manage to fly? Okay, so this is the question for you to answer. He dropped his legs to stand on the ocean. His legs sank into it, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no further. He was floating on it. So now that is how he also learned how to swim. So just as a young seagull, now he was already, he learned all the characteristic features which are, essential for a young seagull. So that was his success. So what led to his success when he was when he was surrounded by the challenges of life, right? When we are surrounded by the challenges of our life, it is at that time we need to take a step. Even though we know that the step is quite risky, but we have to take that first step. Otherwise, we will never succeed. We will fall down. We will lag behind. So if the young seagull had not taken that step, he would not have been able to, learn how to how to get his own food, and he would have lagged behind. He could have not survived in the world without learning how to fly, right? So it is actually the necessity which is the mother of invention. I hope you have heard the saying that necessity is the mother of invention. So when actually he was faced with the adverse situation when he was flying, he had the necessity, he developed the necessity of using the wings. And that necessity actually made him invent his skill of flying. Right. So yes, necessity is the mother of invention. And I hope you have enjoyed today's video and you have enjoyed today's wonderful story and carried with you a very powerful message. That is, never to give up. Always try to overcome the fear that you have. If you do not overcome the fear, if you do not take the first step, you are going to lag behind. So do not hesitate to take your first step, even though it is surrounded by risks. You don't worry, you will definitely overcome the fear and you will definitely be successful. And after being successful, the young seagull, after learning how to fly, he started flying and he started singing ga ga ga, okay? And his parents, his family, entire family celebrated his first flight. So when you are actually hesitant towards taking the first step, but you take the first step and you become successful there, entire family celebrates along with you. So if you want something good, you need to take the first step, you need to take the risk in your life. So that was the powerful message that we all have carried when we saw this story. I hope you have liked this and take care, and please comment the answers below. I'm going to read out the few of your comments, right? Whichever I like. I really appreciate when all of you comment. So really, thank you so much and take care. Bye-bye.